Daylight savings time in the United States starts this Sunday when I'm making this video, but I'm living in Mexico. So how does that impact me? Turns out it has a big impact because although Mexico also has daylight savings time, it doesn't change on the same day as US daylight savings time. So what that's going to cause is a little bit of strangeness in terms of what time zone I think I am in the US. So in this video, what I'm going to do is show you how to use Google Calendar to set your settings correctly so that your calendar is keeping everything straight. Say you're working down here in Mexico and you need to work with people on the East Coast or the West Coast or anywhere in the world. You need to make sure that you set it correctly for it to do the translation properly. Let's dive in. So you can see here on my calendar, off to the left, I actually have two time zones, Pacific time, and this is Mexican Pacific time, I think is what it's called. And you can set that up here under settings in your calendar, and you can see you can display up to two time zones. So I'm actually gonna label this La Paz, because that's where I'm living. Okay, let's go back here. Makes that a little easier. So you can see now that the time zones are off. So we're really in La Paz. It's more similar to mountain time right now. And this is just before daylight savings time springs forward, I guess. So you can see we are 1 hour later than Pacific time. Let's go forward a little bit. And now we're on next week. So March 15th, 2021, you can see now that the time zones match. So in this slight in-between period, we are actually on the same time as Pacific time in the United States. But then let's scroll forward a little bit. So for a couple of weeks, everything is good until we get into April. And you can see here on April 5th, we are now having the time zones back to being 1 hour off. So we're now matching mountain time again. So it's very important when you set your settings in your Google Calendar, when you go into settings, something I had done before is just to say, oh, we're in mountain time, no problem. And I would just set this as mountain time. So minus, 7 mountain time in Phoenix, say, for instance. But it's very important to set it to your local time zone. We actually see that we can get into Pacific time Vancouver versus Pacific time Tijuana versus Pacific time Los Angeles. So all those can change slightly differently. And especially when you're working across time zones and you're trying to schedule meetings, this is the beauty of using something like a Google Calendar, is that if I invite someone to a meeting in Google, it will automatically translate into their time zone, which matters a lot when things are switching, so that you don't have to think, oh, that meeting is 3 weeks into the future, so the time zone here will match the time zone in mountain time now. So don't do that. Just set it correctly in your Google Calendar and have Google do all the work for you. And like I said, it's best if you just display two time zones on your calendar so you can see it happening while it's doing the work behind the scenes. So you can see if you're living down here in Mexico, the time zone officially changes differently. So Sunday, March 14th is when it changes in the United States. And if we change this to Mexico, you can see that it's Sunday, April 4th. And also when it ends is slightly different too. So it's important during these transition periods, if you're working down in Mexico or just even traveling down in Mexico, that you understand when the time zones are changing.